All right, guys, we are going to debut our forum segment now. Every week, Liberty and I will be presenting some broader discussion topics to a forum of specialists, or as we said earlier, at least special people.
Special needs.
And we have two of those special people here with us today, Mr. Steve Klida.
How you doing?
And Mr. Jesse Fisher. So guys, we're just going to get right into the nitty gritty here. Our first subject is something that's very near and dear to Mr. Jesse Fisher's heart, and that is the legalization of marijuana in the states of Colorado and Washington. That seems to be kind of a, it could be snowballing, Jesse, right? I mean, it's a movement that's had support through California and some of the more liberal Western states, and we're just going to talk about that a little bit. Try not to get too political and just present some of the information for maybe some of the viewers that don't have all of it around. So why don't you go ahead. Jesse's coming in on the pro legalization.
Stance not aside, there is a lot of positives to legalizing it. There's a lot of revenue. Colorado is estimating a $300 million tax revenue from this. On average, just squarely from not having to incarcerate or enforce.
Yeah, it's the incarceration benefits that are probably the most telling.
On average, nationally, it costs about $1 billion a year to put people who are just possession charges into prison, $41.8 billion to enforce the laws. So from that stance, legalizing it, just from that alone, will deal with the budget.
Yeah, it would free up quite a bit of budget.
Not as much as because to play to a con, because everyone keeps saying, oh, if we legalize it, it's going to be such a huge boon to the deficit. It's really just going to be a drop in the hat. It's not going to be the biggest in the world, but it is going to be something. And it's something that, as a free country who already allows for the consumption of alcohol and tobacco, which are proven to do reprehensible damages, why legalize it?
Yeah, and coming in on a different note, Steve, you pointed out in our notes meeting that that some of the benefits may be exaggerated, and some of the disadvantages may be hidden or not.
It's downplayed. Jesse talks about all the prisoners you're going to let out. If you let all those prisoners out, what are you going to do with the excess amount of guards you have now?
Yep.
You're going to create unemployment that way also. That's a negative that doesn't get talked about with the positive.
Yeah, and something that I just thought of, you're talking about an influx of unskilled workers into an economy that can't really handle them right now anyways. So you could just be creating different wards of the state.
You're not going to be paying the people for the prison system. They're all going to be sitting on welfare or unemployment. If you look at, I don't want to say stereotypical marijuana user, but a person that uses it generally, I would say, does not have the skill set to go into a skilled position.
Well, and I can agree with what you're saying on that, but I also think that there is an opportunity to be able to have those individuals not be taking so much money away from our tax dollars that could go towards things like education or so on and so forth, because they aren't incarcerated. But like Ben was saying, there is definitely a snowball with all of this.
Yeah, I didn't look it out, and I really want to. I'd like to see the average age of those who are incarcerated for possession charges, because I'm guessing they're relatively young.
Yeah, under 30.
So they could still go into school and still do something with their lives. So that's not necessarily them leeching off the system. They could just rebuild, what was taken from them.
It can't be written off completely just because of something that they did when they were young and dumb, essentially.
Yeah. And I think that's another part of the conversation that I'm kind of getting tired of. It's the biggest thing against it. Everyone keeps assuming that people who want it legalized are these
hardcore stoners.
Hippie stoners. When really, I think about 70% of people, like most of the surveys I've read, 70% of people surveyed said they've tried it at least once. So it's not something that's this counterculture thing anymore.
Yeah, it's more
I'm
of an
gonna go ahead
economic
and throw this out there, guys. I mean, I am a huge supporter of legalizing it, despite the cons that you're throwing out there. But I think I've done it like twice in my entire life when I was younger, and I don't do it anymore, obviously.
Sean,
I'm
you better hope your mom's not watching this.
That's fine. She knows.
I think that as with any experiment in the United States that talks about wide-scale deregulation or regulation, the California question is the one that would come up most frequently. If you can project things out of California experimentally that kind of cover the whole country. And Jesse,
marijuana is California's highest grossing cash crop with $14 billion a year.
Not even legalized yet.
More than that, to go back to the jobs, there's a We Grow chain of dispensaries in California. Every time one opens up, that's 75 new jobs. So if a chain opens up,
there's a bit of mitigation.
Yeah. It's not going to be as...
How many of those positions are skilled work positions?
That I can't
Yeah,
answer.
and they're probably minimum wage, but...
at least it's something.
Well, no, if you can create large-scale minimum wage jobs for prisoners who are getting out on a no longer illegal marijuana charge...
Or any unskilled workers. I think that's one of
the issue I have with all those prisoners getting let out is most marijuana charges, if you look at the laws... if you get a first offense marijuana charge for, say you're not, there's laws where you don't go to jail, you're on a probationary period, and the people that go to jail are people that mess up multiple times.
Yeah.
Well, that's different from state to state. I know for a fact Oklahoma, it's not a misdemeanor, it's a felony.
Yeah, well, in some of Arizona, some of those other states
I'm
are a lot
speaking
harsher.
locally in Michigan.
Yeah, locally it's a misdemeanor.
You have a program you go through, and you don't go to jail if you complete the program unless you mess up multiple times.
Yeah.
So you're kind of saying that, like, there is a first offense type of issue, but then it also can snowball into other things. Because another side of the argument is, when you're talking about drugs, because it is a drug, that marijuana can lead into other harder drugs, and those type of people, I shouldn't say those type of people that are maybe getting in trouble for distributing marijuana illegally are probably also distributing other drugs, whether it's prescription pills that are illegal or crack, heroin, whatever the heck it could be, that it snowballs into other drugs. Yeah, speedballs into
So
other
do you
things.
guys think the people who are in jail now for the possession, should they be let out? Or do you think that they should remain in jail and serve their sentence?
That depends.
On what?
It's what I was trying to say earlier before we started recording. Because a lot of times in prison, you end up doing worse things. It's just the culture of being with that many people. So if you're in there for possession and you have a clean record, yes, you should be let out. If you do other things in prison that warrant you being there,
well, obviously you would stay in jail for those.
Yeah. But
and
there are a lot of people who I know would assume that, okay, they were in for this charge, that's their get out of free jail card.
And
they only did worse things because of this charge, so they should be let out because of it.
Well, to riff on Stephen Liberty's point a little bit,
A
lot of the states that would be like a Michigan model, these people are not in just for a drug charge.
Sure.
They're in for multiples. They're in for home invasion with possession.
Yeah.
So there's one thing to credit them for time served, but I don't think you'll see this huge exodus of people out of the prison system. There's very few, at least in this state, and it probably is different. I know Arizona has very strict marijuana laws, and so does Oklahoma, where just 1 or 2 marijuana possession charges are going to put you in jail for 10 years. Like there is going to be other mitigating factors.
And it could, frankly, be, I know people who, and I still will say that I don't know what side of the fence I am on this subject. Not just to be like not controversial in a sense, because I know many individuals who happen to be, medicinal essentially users, I guess, and they are productive, amazing, people of society that hold jobs, have families, things like that, and it's just part of their relaxation or however it is, but they are still productive members of society.
It's their vice, similar to, some people will go after work and have a glass of wine, or, sit down with a nice glass of scotch.
Do you two mean to tell me that casual drug users are actually productive members of society? That blows my mind.
Oh, geez. Well, yes, of course. I mean, but it's also kind of like you have functioning alcoholics. You know, do you know what I'm saying?
It's quite like that.
Okay, no, but I'm saying,
I understand what you're saying, that there are a lot of people who don't.
And I was being.
I totally agree with Liberty. I've worked for casual drug users that smoke pot to chill themselves out. And honestly, they're great employers. They're great bosses. They don't necessarily do it on the job in front of.
Dip.
Say that again?
They make killer dip.
Killer dip like guac, queso.
Like guac. That's producer Seth weighing in. Thank you very much, coming from out of the back there.
I know functioning.
You guys are using this functioning term wrong. I don't think
we're using it. The term functioning wrong.
That's well, you're not using it wrong, but you're kind of using it in the sense that people who, like, because you smoke, it's still the stereotype of what everyone assumes.
I know people that don't fit the stereotype. They habitually use marijuana, but they also hold down 80-hour-week jobs.
Sure.
Yeah.
And work super hard for the living they make for themselves.
And really, that's the problem I have with it being illegal. Look at the newscast when NBC and CBS announced that Colorado and Washington banned it. They immediately started cracking jokes about munchies. That's something that there's
a national stereotype about what a person who smokes marijuana looks and acts like.
Well, and frankly, I mean, that joke about munchies, I mean, there's different types of marijuana that you can smoke that you're super highly productive on, as opposed to like.
There's highly productive marijuana?
Yes!
That's coffee.
Yeah.
No!
That's coffee.
That's recovering alcoholic coffee.
Yeah.